pleased to start the discussion. Welcome back to the stage, the moderator, Anaïs Lekovec. Joining Anaïs, we have Véronique Narboni, Michel Berg, Zofia Smolin, and Maria Nassif.
Alrighty. So, thank you very much for joining the Mental Health Inside the Brain session. I know it's been a long day, but we're going to talk about mental health, and I think it's quite important. So, before I just introduce the panelists next to me, who will take all the stage, I just wanted to mention why this topic, apart from obviously being very important, at Health Tech for Innovation Days, there's a co-event that we do normally in May, which is Health Tech for Patients. And this year we had mental health as the key topic. So I just want to bring that to the table because for Health Tech for Patients, it's very important to have obviously the patient on board, choosing a topic. And around mental health, we had a full afternoon session that you can actually find online with very great debates around what can be done about it, bringing forward some research projects, but also some startups that work in mental health, obviously specialists in mental health, and also patients. So I think the next year, we're not sure yet what will be the topic, but Health Tech for Patients is also a great part of this Health Tech Innovation Days and the importance that patients take in this event. So, with no further ado, because my role here is to moderate the great speakers I have asked them to prepare a small presentation. Well, they will introduce themselves and what they do, and then we'll have a discussion. Please make sure if you have any questions, you can stop us anytime. Just raise your hand. It's important that we're interactive and that we don't annoy you. I hope you had good coffee, so you're all awake for this amazing session. So maybe I will start with Véronique Narboni. She's the medical director at Match for Innovation. And she will tell us a little bit about the overall picture, apart from saying what you do.
Okay, thank you very much. Sorry for my voice. I'm very happy to be here. What I want to say is that you asked me to set up the picture. I am a GP as a background, and I've been working in the pharma since a long time, in pharma and startups, and mainly in CNS. And what I realized is that in the late 90s, a book was done by the World Bank and the WHO and trying to forecast the global burden of disease. What they saw for the 2020 was that actually depression will be among the top leading cause of disability, and that was prior COVID. We had the COVID that struck the world, and immediately after the COVID, the OECD has been publishing study looking at the result. And what we saw was even more important, is like not only depression, but anxiety for their prevalence. It has almost doubled all around the country in Europe. So we speak about depression, anxiety, and I'm not talking here about eating disorders, addictive behaviors that are going even to add on. So the first point is the problem is huge. Mental health should be on the agenda on all the different countries. That's the first point. And the second point, I was lucky enough to start to do some research in Sweden at the Karolinska Institute in the 20s. It was a WHO program working on suicide prevention among schools. And what we have seen with the COVID is that the young population is even more suffering from mental health than before. So my second saying is that it's a priority, and it's a priority for the society because it is also for all the young generation, and we need to find solutions. So I will stop here because I think there is a lot of other things to discuss.
No, but thank you very much. I think it's very important. You're stating facts, and it's important to set the scene. I will pass it on to Michel. Michel Berg is the co-founder, president, and CEO of Axilum Robotics. So could you tell us a little bit more about what you do?
Yes, I can give you the perspective of a startup company. So I'm GP as well, and I co-founded a medical robotic company It was back in 2011. So we are developing robotic solutions in order to improve technical medical procedures. And one of these procedures we are focusing on is transcranial magnetic stimulation. So who knows what is transcranial magnetic stimulation in the room? 1, 2, 3? Not a lot, but some. And so TMS, what you call TMS, is a procedure, is a neurostimulation procedure that consists in applying a coil on the head of a patient to apply a pulsed magnetic field. And this magnetic field will generate electrical current in the cortex, cerebral cortex. And this will activate some brain circuits specifically involved in disease like major depression or chronic neuropathic pain. So this is an innovative solution that has been developed for maybe now a bit more than 30 years, that is widely used in the US, reimbursed. You have 1,000 centers in the US, both private, public, delivering TMS to patients. And the focus is on patients resisting on drugs. And the fact is that there is around 20–30% of patients that are resisting to drugs. Not only one, but a few. All they try. And we have a very limited solution for these patients. And the issue is that in most of the European countries, including France, there is no patient access on these new technologies, new solutions for these patients. And I think this is a missed opportunity for these patients and for the healthcare professional not to have access to this kind of solution. So there is probably a big need to have both companies, healthcare professionals, but also patients to try to influence the payers in order to have access to these new technologies, new solutions.
Thank you very much, Michel. I will pass the floor to Maria Nassif. She's a patient ambassador at the FH Europe Foundation. And Annette, I think it's very important you explain to us also the relation with mental health and other diseases.
Okay, hello, everyone. First of all, I want to thank Halsec for care to inviting me as a patient to talk about chronic disease and how it affects mental health, and especially to find solutions that can equally profit patients but healthcare professionals as well. So my name is Maria. I am an electrical engineer, and I am a patient with 3 chronic diseases. I'm going to talk about one of them, which is homozygous familial hypercholesterolemia, known as HoFH, because it is a genetic, chronic, and one of the rarest diseases known internationally. So HoFH is having a very high level of cholesterol in the blood, double or even triple the normal level that's allowed for a normal human being at birth. The treatments are taking medicine, statins, ezetimibe, having healthy food diet, and LDL apheresis, which is blood filtering from cholesterol. Even though every patient follow this prescription and do their treatment when they should, they get heart diseases, cardiovascular diseases from very young age, as this is my case. I have atherosclerosis, which is the build-up of cholesterol in the walls of the arteries. I have the main arteries of the body, which is in the neck, in the heart, and the legs, clogged at 60 to 70% each. This makes me feel tired most of the time, having chest pain and racing heartbeat. It gives me a constant sense of fear of having heart attack or a stroke, leave me have anxiety and panic attacks. In addition, it leaves me tired most of the time that even home chores are very difficult for me to finish. I sometimes cancel my plans because I know I can't accomplish them. I even don't sign up to activities, especially with my friends, for example, go on for a hike, or like visiting, for example, the famous Mont Saint-Michel, which has 350 stair steps, because it's gonna be very hard for my heart. This makes me feel deprived of my strength, hopeless, and deprived from the control I have over my life, leading me to have depressive episodes for many days. Of course, I talked to my doctors about these symptoms, but my doctors are lipidologist, endocrinologists, and cardiologists. They can't help me to manage my health, my mental health symptoms. In addition, having recurrent panic attacks and depressive episodes are very complicated when planning for the future. I feel very guilty when I feel that I'm tiring my partner, even though they are understanding, but they can affect also our plans, especially having a child, because I don't want my child to have a mother who is tired most of the time, can do activities with them. A child won't understand that their mother is sick. They're gonna think that their mother doesn't want to spend time with them, which can affect their self-confidence. In addition to that, I don't want to transmit my anxiety and depression for a child, because we know how children are very delicate from very young age, and they're gonna grow up with them and they're gonna suffer from these mental diseases. So we are in need to psychological and rehabilitation aid to be able to manage our condition, to have control back to our life, and feel our chronic disease is less of a burden for us, because it doesn't affect us only, but the next generations as well. And maybe the solution that Michelle has talked about can be benefit for us instead of taking medicine. And maybe also Sophia, she's gonna talk about what she has done for mental health disease can also be a solution for us.
Thank you so much, Maria. I think it's always so important to have also patients around, because that's what we all are supposed to work for also, because we'll all eventually be or have been patient in the past, present, future. Next one, Sophia, what would you like to explain to us a little bit also from your startup point of view, what you do?
Yes, thank you. So what my pre-speakers have talked about is very important. It also shows the problem, which is that we don't really understand at this moment mental health disorders. And what I mean by this is that in psychiatry, we usually treat the symptoms. We do not really treat the causes. We barely know them. So we don't know exactly the relation between your disease, for example, and what you are experiencing. And we are trying to address it with, for example, like more and more, and with more sophisticated tools, like, for example, Michel with his startup. But until the moment we can actually point to the causes and how it works, then psychiatry will always be, let's say, behind the other areas of medicine, where we usually know the causes. And for example, we can tell the difference between allergy and the flu, even though they have different cause, they have the same symptoms, but the treatment is very important. If we don't know the cause, we will not be able to treat it correctly. And there's long way in front of us until we discover the connection. So far, we can only work with causes. And my startup tries to make it easier. Because right now, people usually, when they decide that their mental health is not in a good shape, their first choice is to go to a psychotherapist, psychologist, psychiatrist, and yeah, here starts the problem, because people usually don't know the difference between those three specializations. They don't know where should they go given their symptoms. And my startup here, it's not only between those specializations, it's also like inside psychotherapy you have different types. You have psychodynamic, CBT, lots of them, and each of those types has different different efficacy for different illnesses. So it's very important actually when you go to a psychotherapist, you go to the right one. Otherwise, you might be stuck in a, let's say, psychodynamic therapy for a long, long time and not get anything from that. And my startup is basically a chatbot where a person can type their feelings at the moment and their symptoms in general, and then it recognizes the symptoms because people usually cannot really name them like scientifically. It recognizes the symptoms and then matches the right psychotherapy type. So on this part where we right now can actually make some impact when we fight with the symptoms, not yet causes, this is like the next step, but with the symptoms, we are trying to help people at least do as well as they can at this moment of our scientific knowledge, let's say, of mental disorders. Yeah.
Thank you very much, Sophia. So now let's start a little bit the discussion. We've been, again, preparing the session and had already some discussion. We might not agree on all, but I would ask each and every one of you because as you said, mental health is a huge issue. I think more and more people are aware of it, but still a lot of work to do. So what is needed to push more innovation in the mental health field and to find new solutions? I know money is probably going to be one of your answers, but apart from that, what would you say if you had you have in front of you a room full of different type of people? What would you say to them? Who wants to start? Veronique.
Well, first I will just add something. We have more and more knowledge about what's going on in the brain. So there is big understanding. I think that you're right. Psychotherapy can be very useful. Probably we need also to think that it's not one size fits all, and that most probably the patient should have the voice depending on what they like. They could go for CBT, cognitive behavioral therapy, or interpersonal psychotherapy, or positive psychology, or systemic psychology, anyway, plenty of other things. So I think that is one very important thing. What we need is more studies that really show the efficacy of the apps that are actually on the market claiming to help without sound, ground, scientific data. And I think that it is what is needed. We really need to show that digital therapeutics works, that people will be empowered by using it, they will better understand what's happening, they will be probably prone to see the relapse and prevent it. So I think that we need to have investment and have the mindset not only putting apps on the store, but really making sure that science is behind it.
No, thank you for that. And if I may, I mentioned to you in the previous moments that we are in, for example, one project is called Improva, and that's the thing that is funded by the European Commission, and it brings together the scientists, the clinicians, the patients, and it's to support and promote mental health amongst adolescents. And with the application, as you said, one of the key issues that the Commission was saying is we need more scientific evidence as well, because there are plenty of things out there, but not necessarily controlled or at least checked. Michel, what would you say is needed?
No, I agree with the fact that we need, of course, always scientific data, evidences, and so on. But sometimes, even with evidences, there is still some reluctance of the authorities to provide access to patients. And I think when we are in a situation where there are 25, one quarter, one third of the patients who are resisting to existing solutions, we should be proactive. Authorities should be proactive by providing access, at least finding solution, tests, do it temporarily, or find any solutions to try and to measure the impact of this innovation on the patients that are resisting to existing solutions. So, but also I want to go to confirm what you said about we have more and more knowledge about how the brain is working. To give you an example, in Strasbourg, they are well in advance for these neuromodulation solutions, and they are doing functional MRI to patients who has schizophrenia or major depression, and they find some hypoactive area in the brain. And so each patient has his personalized solution treatment. So it's not a group of patients, but it's patient per patient who has a different protocol, different targets in the brain to stimulate, and so on. I think this is really new, and there is more and more science in the treatment for psychological disease.
Maria, what's your take?
Yes, so what has been said is very important, and I want to add that patients should be in the middle of these innovations. As a patient ambassador with FHR Foundation and Annette France, we are doing lots of awareness about our disease because it is not known to the public, and we are talking about mostly the struggles that we face on a daily basis. This has helped many of the investors, the pharmacologists, to sponsor us and able to have to be included in the studies of new medicine. I was a patient with who got into a protocol for innovation medicine. It's called evinacumab, and it worked for me. It didn't work for another patient who has the same disease as mine. So the patient should raise their voices. They should be backed up by healthcare professionals to talk very scientifically about the disease, because sometimes the patient doesn't even know what they're in their body. And I think by raising their voices and telling people what do they need, they will get the funding they need. They will get the encouragement of all of the healthcare professionals and people who are in the field of mental health disease or any other diseases.
Thank you very much. Sophia?
For me, it's research mostly, not only like with the apps, but mostly with the relation of the mental diseases and actual like biological factors. So genes, maybe also bacteria, viruses. There's lots of new research incoming in that sense. This is difficult because it's hard to notice that there might be something really physical going on with the body when the only thing that somebody displays is that they're sad. But there's growing research in that field. And for example, just to give an example, parasite in this area can cause very similar symptoms as schizophrenia has. So probably a vast part of what right now we are just considering mental disorders are just another way to call regular physical disorders that we just cannot explain.
That's a strong statement, but it's true. It's true. I think, and that's why the session is inside the brain, because there are many things we still don't understand. So, I'm taking the pulse of the audience. Any question as of now? Yes, please.
I need to come back to my background of psychiatrist a long time ago. We have a problem with psychiatric diseases. We have no taxonomy, real, operational, scientific taxonomy of psychiatric disorders. All the diseases are characterized by symptoms and syndrome. And we know that the symptom or syndrome are not univocal of one disease. We know, for example, that in migrant, depression is expressed like acute schizophrenia. We know that we can find, when we look at depressive disorders, what is a common ground, if there is, between reactive disorders, melancholia, and so on, or a neurotic disorder with depression. So what I would encourage, startups to look at about this taxonomy based on objective factors. Of course, symptoms. You were mentioning biology, biomarkers, physiological markers, and so on. And probably the best way of looking at that are big data, in fact. You know?
Yes, I completely agree. And what you said at the end, the big data, because it's not easy to see that if we have lots and lots of different factors that could influence it. And the thing is, artificial intelligence or just statistics is pretty good at seeing patterns that humans don't. So that's actually the area where I see the most potential in the research as to the biomarkers.
And if I may add to what you were saying, actually inflammation is now the new field of research together with the microbiota. So, I mean, there is plenty of field of research so yes, there is, it's not only the mind is, and yesterday we were in the round table talking about obesity, and you can see that all these eating disorders, actually you can treat your obese patient, even if they are losing weight, at some point their brain is still affected. So there is something there as well. So, I mean, and inflammation is also part of is in the loop. So, yeah, it's a very
yes.
If we look at the causes, the initial causes of the disease, we absolutely need to define a better taxonomy. If we don't do that, and you know, I was a young psychiatrist almost 40 years ago, and we were in the same situation as today almost, you know. So it's time to look at the problem on a different way.
Thank you very much. Definitely agree with that. And I would say, maybe I can ask Maria, in terms of the comorbidities, because again, there are, as you see, the microbiome in another project actually that looks at this link between mental health and IBS patients, and actually see what influences more the other, because it could be both ways. Maria, how do you feel that patient could be more involved eventually, and how, like, what do you see in terms of innovation in the mental health? What do you need?
We need first to have a floor to speak up, people to believe in us, to believe that our disease exists. That's why also we need healthcare professionals. They are the one who will talk scientifically about our diseases, and patients are gonna talk about their experience, and they're gonna talk about how this disease can affect the well-being of a patient, not only on a physical level, but only on a mental and psychological level. We need also people to listen to us, to back us up, to know about our disease, because, like, if I'm gonna talk about my disease, when we talk about asthma, for example, or diabetes, everyone knows what it is. What are the symptoms? What is it about? But when I talk about my disease, I have to explain everything. So I think there should be more floor to the patient to talk about what they are going through.
And now, if I may ask Michelle and also Véronique and then Sophia, in terms of, say, the technology or where the research should go, any more hints? Because the last question will be about the money, and then we will talk directly to the investors in the room and why they should invest on mental health. But in terms of technology, where do you see it going?
Well, I can speak about neuromodulation because I know a bit more this area, and I think it's a very promising area. It's not only transcranial magnetic stimulation, but it's also transcranial direct current stimulation, ultrasound in the future. So there are a lot of ways to modulate the activity of the brain, and this is non-invasive. This is they have very limited adverse events, so it's really interesting if you compare to drugs that are in the full body. It's a very interesting concept as well. And I think it's really promising, and we need both, of course, more and more data. we need open-minded payers and evaluation bodies, and we need also to have patients that patient has a big power. If they are well organized, they can have a big influence on these bodies, and I think they should be more involved and to participate in evaluations of these new technologies.
Thank you.
But what I will add, because I had this experience while using and trying to launch a digital therapeutics, we have not to forget the physician, healthcare professional, when going for adoption, and I think that it was yesterday, you need to use something, and if you don't know how to use it, then you cannot adopt it. So I think that we are here, probably we will have a generation gap, because now the new generation are trained to use new technology, and it is part of their curriculum, but the doctor currently working, they have no clue. So if the patient come with the solution, and the doctor doesn't know anything, then it's not working. So I think this is a kind of, we need to also make sure that the physician and all the other healthcare professionals are in the loop, they know what we are talking about, and they are involved even in the research to make sure that we can find new solutions to help patients and themselves.
Thank you. Sophia, may I ask you to also, because you mentioned AI before, I know you're really much into that in your startup. What is your relation also with maybe the physician? Apart from telling us a little bit more about the technology that you use, if you could address eventually that relation with the physician.
So we are not directly treating the patient. We are only helping them find the right treatment. And it's basically, it all comes down to one thing: how to find a good therapist, psychotherapist, psychologist, psychiatrist, whoever matches to that certain case. And our role here is to take the problem that the patient has and tell them where they should go with this problem. It's just on the layer of let's say, general knowledge of a person, because usually when somebody goes and decides that they want to actually get a treatment, they don't have psychology degree, they don't know anything about this. And this is not easy to go through all of the Google pages about different psychotherapy types. There's like myriad of them. It's not easy to navigate through this. And our role is kind of to use LLMs are here important because like how people describe their problems, it's not really scientific. It's not like you know that you should filter through this kind of diseases because you feel like this and that. You have no idea. You just say, yeah, I'm sad. My boyfriend shouts at me at home, something like that. And then we can see, okay, this person should probably go into this direction. Those people don't know that. We suggest that using LLMs. Yeah, that's our role, basically.
And just so I understand, but also the rest of us, the list of of psychology psychiatrists, where does it come from? Do you actually have connection with them, or is it?
Yes. These are physicians that are signed up on our platform. Basically, we accept everybody who has certificate in their and education in the field that they declare that they have education in. And yeah, we recommend physicians within the field that we within the psychotherapy type. Let's say we recommend it to the patient.
Thank you. So, any other questions? I'm checking on the no? They're actually all listening very much to all of you. We have a few minutes left, and I would like to address not the elephant in the room, but the money issue, because we've seen, and we were mentioning before, for example, in oncology, there have been loads of investment and so on. In mental health, we're still struggling. So how do we address that? What is needed, and how do we convince investors that is so important? Who wants to start?
I think again, I will speak again about patient access. If we need to show that to investors that patient access is accessible in order to make them invest in solutions. So that's one of the key
Yes, I will add probably that compared to the more classical drug that are probably here, the organizational impact of the solution is a key trigger because you have to show that it will help patient, but also all the system and the care pathway. And probably it will be a way to reassure the payers because otherwise they see new solution as an additional cost to the standard of care, and they still believe that their standard of care is the gold standard, which is far from it. But that's the reality. So they see it as an extra cost. They don't want to pay more. So probably we need to find another way to present and work with the development and find new evaluation.
Yes, Sophia.
This is not easy money because when it comes to the money, you need to sell your product to somebody, and that somebody is gonna buy it when they know that it's gonna work. And the problem is in the field of psychiatry in general, for the reason that we don't know much about it, there's few things that actually work. So I would say there's still long road in front of us before we see actual solutions that actually work and bring money, and we are sure about it, and bring money because they work. And I would say that this stage, like we still have to pass through the stage when, for example, with governmental funding, because who else gonna found something that's not gonna bring much money. For probably 30 years, we are gonna be analyzing actual relation between biomarkers and the symptoms, and then after we have the taxonomy actually, and that we know the causes of the diseases, then we can think about the treatments that will work and will bring money. So this is not easy right now. I think right now we can try. But the real lucrative age of this part of medicine is still in front of us, in my opinion.
I have a more positive view than you, because otherwise you have the feeling that nobody can do anything during 30 years. No, I think there is plenty of solution that works, that have been proving efficacy, but the system of reimbursement, the system, the access is not ready. So it's not that we have there is plenty of very good solutions currently. But the question is how to evaluate it, who should pay for it, and time to market, and where. So we are not going to wait another 30 years. That's too long.
Yeah, we have to do what we have to work with what we have.
So now, Maria.
Yes, I want to talk about my experience as well. As a patient ambassador with Annette France, we have done so many webinars and lots of raising awareness that next month in October, I'm gonna be telling about my disease at the Senate, and I will certainly talk about mental disease and the effect that my disease has on my mental health, because physically I'm okay, I'm very good, it's been very taken care of at the hospital where I'm getting my treatment, but everyone has forgotten about my mental health. So I'm gonna be talking about this. I'm gonna tell them that there are solutions in the market in France, but we only need the reimbursement, the access for the patient. And I think it's for the government to work with investors to help us have this access to mental health services.
Yeah, no, and I agree. I know, let's say, the difficulty of right now, but I also quite hopeful about the future. I understand, for example, at European level, they are trying to fund, obviously not so many projects, but to fund and find solutions that can really, and normally they ask you as well to connect with the policymakers, because if not, as you said, there's no point. So definitely a lot of work to do. Any last thoughts about where we should be heading? Or you have a crowd of investor companies and researchers. What would you say? Because I mean, mental health. What I would have thought, what you said at the beginning, Veronique, is that because of COVID, it just we all got aware now a little bit. The crisis is big, but I think awareness is way more present than it was. And I was mentioning the difference of generation also about how we see mental health. But just one last thought from each of you to go on a positive note.
I would say we need action.
And I think also all these innovations are coming from small companies. Often they have limited resources, so of course investment is required. They have limited resources in comparison of big pharma who are developing drugs, and also if we need scientific data, often researchers are working on their own often, and they should maybe more work as a network, having more multi-center studies in order to have more powerful data, more robust data, and I think this will be very helpful as well.
Thank you very much. So we're just on time. Just remember, we need more push on the policymakers and the reimbursements and all of that. Thank you so much to the panel. Please, a big round of applause for all of them. Thank you so much.